Making clothing in ZBrush is often pretty straightforward. Just mask where you want the clothes to be on the body and extract. But having a collar on a shirt adds an extra layer of complexity, literally. In this video, I'll show you some of my tricks for creating a nice collared shirt. Okay, so we're starting out with this character, and I've already masked off where the shirt should be. And so, since this is a buttoned up shirt, the two halves sort of overlap. However, if I were to mask out this whole area, the two halves would be combined into one, and that wouldn't allow me to control the two halves separately. So for now, there's a gap between the two, and then we'll close that up later. All right, I'm going to go ahead and extract this into a new subtool. So we'll go to Subtool and make sure you open up Extract. And I want to make sure that Smooth is set to 0 because I don't want to apply any extra smoothing. And also make sure that your thickness is set to 0 as well. And then hit Extract. Now this is just a preview, so I'm going to click Accept to lock it in and make a new subtool out of it. All right, let's go to this new subtool. I'm going to turn on Solo mode so we see only the shirt. And I can go ahead and clear this mask. Now before I start building a collar, there's a few things I want to do first. For example, if I hit Shift F, you can see that the wireframe is based on the wireframe of the original body model. However, the edges are kind of jagged and weird, so let's do a quick Z remesher on this to even everything out. So I'm going to go to Geometry, open up Z remesher, and I'm going to decrease the polygon count. It's a pretty simple shirt, so something more like 1.5 should be good, or 1.7. And go ahead and click Z remesher. It's just going to take a few seconds to calculate this. So one thing to keep in mind with this is that when you use Extract to create a new subtool, it doesn't leave symmetry on by default. So my Z remesher result doesn't have symmetry in it. You can see the difference there. So I'm going to undo that and hit X to turn on symmetry. And let's run that one more time. Okay, another thing with Z remesher, you can see the result is a little bit weird in places. There's some strange, awkward things happening to the wireframe. So often what I like to do is just run Z remesher a second time. And that pretty much solves all of those problems. It's not really awkward anymore. One other thing I want to do to this shirt before I build that collar is to expand it out from the body a little bit. So let's turn off Solo mode. And you can see it's like perfectly overlapping the body. So let's just expand it out. I'm going to get the Move manipulator and just hold down the right mouse button while I click and drag on this end circle in red, and it'll just expand it away from the body a little bit. Okay, good. I'm going to turn off wireframe with Shift F. All right, now I'm going to start building out the collar. So what I'm about to do can be a little bit tricky, but let me just tell you in advance what the end result I'm trying to get is. So I'm going to zoom in on where the collar should be. I'm going to hit Shift F to turn on wireframe. So what we need to do is create more geometry that is in this area where the collar should be. There's several different ways you could go about doing it, and none of these techniques are really all that straightforward. So there might be a little bit of finagling, a little bit of trial and error before you get something that works, but the steps I'm about to follow should give you a pretty good result. So what I'm going to do is add thickness to the entire shirt all the way around, and that will give me some extra polygons around the edge. So I'm going to switch to my Z modeler brush. I'm going to hit B, Z, M on the keyboard, and I'm going to hover over a polygon, hold down the space bar, and let's switch this into extrude mode. And I want to extrude all polygons. And let's go ahead and click and drag this out. So what I want to do is just give myself enough polygons to create a little bit of a lip around where the collar is. So that's good. Let me get out of the Z modeler brush by hitting BST to get my standard brush back. Now I really just want the extra polygons around the collar, and the extrusion was a way to get that. So now I want to delete all of the polygons that I don't want, which is this outer shell. So I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and click on it to select that polygroup. Now I will Control, Shift, click on it again to invert that selection. And now I'm going to delete hidden because I don't need those polygons. So we'll go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Del Hidden. Now one thing that happened when we did that extrusion is it flipped the model inside out, and that's why you can see that the shirt is kind of odd and inside out. So let's flip that back around. So I'm going to go to the Display Properties and click on Flip. And something else I want to do is turn on double so that I can see both sides of this flat object. So like, for example, this collar right back here, if I don't have double turned on, I can't really see it. With double, I can. Okay, so you can see we've got this extra ring of polygons around the collar, but it's going all the way down the front, and it's also on every open edge. So I want to get rid of it everywhere except where the collar should be. So one way to do that is I'm going to hold down Control Shift and click on this polygroup to isolate it. And now let's make a separate polygroup just for the polygons that are where the collar should be. So I'm going to hold down Control Shift, click and drag so that I capture all of those polygons. And let's make a new polygroup out of just this selection. Go to Polygroups and Auto Groups. Now we can bring everything back by Control Shift clicking in an open space. And now I want to delete the polygroup that is this extra lip around the other open edges. So I'm just going to hold down Control Shift and click on just that polygroup. And then one more time to invert the selection. And now we can delete that. So let's go to Geometry and Del Hidden. Okay, that was kind of tricky, but there were some really good techniques in there, some really good things to practice that'll make your modeling a lot faster. All right, we're about halfway there. Now we need to make another set of geometry to bring out the collar all the way around. What I'm going to do is zoom in here, and I want to cut an extra edge loop around here so that I have more geometry to work with. So I'm going to get the Z Modeler brush back, BZM, and I want to hover over an edge and hold spacebar and make sure we're in Insert Edge Loop mode. So Insert and Single Edge Loop is good. And let's just click and drag on one of these and create a new edge loop. Now we need to pull away this one edge loop so that it comes out and forms the main mass of the collar. So one easy way to do that is to mask it off and then invert that mask. So with the Z Modeler brush hovering over an edge, hold down spacebar and let's go to Mask, and we want to mask an edge loop complete. So now when we click on this edge loop, what it does is it masks that entire edge loop all the way around. Now we just need to invert that mask by holding down Control and clicking in an open area. And now I can switch to my Move brush, BMV. We'll get a bigger brush here. And now we can just pull this collar away. I just want to make sure that it comes out. It's going to be a little bit awkward in shape at first, but you can always just keep tweaking that and massaging that shape. I just want to go all the way around and kind of pull that collar to where it should be. And it's probably going to take a little bit of back and forth to get that shape correct. So this is an old guy. He's used to having really big collars. So let's give him a really cartoonishly big collar here. And I just want to massage that shape so that it comes closer to the shirt here. And now I just want to straighten out some of these awkward edges here so it's not quite so jagged. Get a nice smooth edge. Okay, looking pretty good. And now the collar should have a little bit of a curve to it. So let's insert some more edge loops and control that shape a little better. So I'm going to go back to my Z Modeler brush, BZM. Let's hover over an edge. Hit spacebar, and let's go to Insert and Single Edge Loop. And now we can just click and drag on one of these edges. And now I want to control just this one edge. So what I'm going to do is clear my mask. And then do that same thing we did before where I mask just this one edge loop. So I'm going to hover over an edge loop, hold down spacebar, go back to Mask, Edge Loop Complete. And let's just click on this. And then invert that mask by holding down Control and clicking in an open area. Then going back to the Move brush, BMV. And now we can pull on just that one edge and give it a nicer shape. Okay, so this is looking pretty polygonal. Let's see what it looks like when it's smoothed out. I'm going to turn on the smooth dynamic subdivision. Okay, so you can see it's got a nice shape to it. And one thing that's a little bit awkward about it, and we talked about this in other videos, but it's shrinking the shape. So what I want to do is actually crease those edges. So let's go to crease and just click on crease. So now we get an effect where if we turn dynamic subdivision on and off, it smooths it without shrinking it too much. All right, so let me clear my mask and turn off the wireframe and really assess what this is looking like. All right, pretty nice. Really just one more thing to do at this point, and that is to create that overlap. So let's turn on solo mode so that we can see the whole shirt without the pants covering it up. And I'm going to turn off symmetry by hitting X because we need to control each of these sides independently. And what I want to do is just simply mask off. Oh, whoops. I had my mask just hidden, so I'm going to go back to masking and clear that. I'm going to hold down Control and paint a mask just on this one side. And then we can grow the mask, maybe blur it a little bit. Then we can invert it by holding down Control and clicking in an open area. And let's get the Move Manipulator out, and we'll draw a new manipulator. I just want to pull this one over to the side, and maybe pull it a little bit forward too. Okay, let's go ahead and clear that mask. Turn off solo mode, and maybe do a little bit of cleanup sculpting here where the shirt is poking through the pants. I'm just going to hold down Alt while I click and drag to push that inwards. Okay, so there's definitely still some tweaking you might want to do. You might want to put in some wrinkles or some buttons. But as far as getting the general structure of the shirt done with a collar on there, it's looking great.